Today we're going to learn about masculine and feminine nouns of the third declension. But before we do that, let's go back and look at our cases. Remember, when we decline, we put the word into all of these cases, and the nominative is used for the subject, the genitive, possession, the dative, the indirect object, the accusative, the direct object, and the ablative, the object of a preposition, or other ablative constructions that we've learned, such as the ablative of place where. Also, we've seen several other declensions by now. We know first declension nouns, which end in A in the nominative and I in the genitive. And remember, most of these nouns are feminine, unless, of course, it's one of the few exceptions like nauta, agricola, poeta. We also know second declension masculine nouns, which end in us in the nominative and E in the genitive. We know second declension neuter nouns, which end in in the nominative and E in the genitive. And now we're going to learn third declension masculine and feminine nouns. And these are a little different because the nominative form is irregular and the genitive form ends in is. So here we have pater, patris, soror, sororis, nepos, nepotis. Notice that the nominative singular is irregular, but the genitive always ends in is. Now let's form our third declension. Here we have our third declension masculine feminine word, mater, matris, which means mother. We're going to go to that first principal part, and that tells us one thing and one thing only, the nominative singular. And then we're going to go to our second principal part, the genitive, because that's where we always get our stem for nouns. We're going to drop off the genitive ending, which is is, and this will give us our stem for the entire declension. And to that declension, we're going to add our endings, which are is, ema, as, ibus, ace, ibus. And that is how you form the third declension. Alright, time for a little grammar in action so we can practice. And here we have two different tasks. The first section, I want you to take the given noun and put it in the case and number given. In the second section, you've already been given a third declension noun that's been declined in a specific case, and I want you to change the adjective in parentheses so that they modify each other. And remember, nouns and adjectives must agree in case, number, and gender. Now would be a good time to pause your recording and take a second to complete these, and then we'll review. So let's start with number one, mater, matris, in the dative plural. Remember, we're always going to go to that genitive, drop off the is to get your stem, which is matr, and then add your dative plural ending, and it becomes matribus. Number two, amor, amoris, same thing. You got to go to the genitive, drop off the is, and you add your nominative plural ending, es, amores, the loves. Number three, nepos, nepotis. Drop off that is of the genitive and add your ablative singular ending. Now, for a noun-adjective agreement, the third declension is not going to sync up endings with these three-part adjectives that we have. As I've warned you before, don't think that a noun and adjective are always going to share the same case ending. Here, the nouns are going to have third declension endings, whereas the adjectives are going to have second masculine, first or second neuter endings, depending on what gender. So let's do sororum. It is, of course, with that ending in the genitive plural. So we need to use cara and use the genitive plural ending of that, and it becomes sororum cararum, of the dear sisters. Moving on to number two, patri. We have that I ending, which makes it the dative singular. So that means we need the dative singular of patri, the father, the masculine adjective. So we go to notus and use the dative ending, patri noto, to or for the famous father. And fratribus. Fratribus with that ibus ending could be either dative or ablative plural, but it is of course masculine. So we're going to go to wikinis and add the dative or ablative plural ending, and it becomes fratribus wikinis. And finally, let's look at our takeaways for this chapter. They are, of course, just your third declension masculine and feminine endings. And the biggest thing to remember is our nominative case is completely irregular. You go to your genitive, drop off that is, and that's what gives you the stem for the rest of this declension.